Hey, hi guys. Good morning.
Thank you.
Hey, hi. Let's give few more minutes for others to join. Yeah, I think everyone joined. Let me get started sharing my screen. sharing my screen. So you can see my screen. Okay. Today, as I was telling, like we'll be more interacting with Hive through Java. So we have seen user-defined functions in PIC in case if you want to convert anything using any custom-defined functions. Okay. So for example, we converted the lowercase to uppercase there. Of course, that's available in PIC, but in real time, sometimes like when you get different date formats from your source file, then your Hive will be supporting only one date format. Your Hive or PIC will support only one date format. That is YYYY-MM-DD. So irrespective of what the source date format that you are getting, converting that into your target Hive format is one of the real-time cases where you might need to write a user-defined function in Hive. Okay. So before coming to this actual implementation of that user-defined function, let's see the high-level steps and involved in that. Let me keep everyone on mute. So again, in Hive UDFs, we have mainly 3 different types, but the basic ones are like regular UDFs, user-defined functions, which acts on one column and which takes one value at a time and produces another value. User-defined aggregate functions. This is something advanced or complex stuff where you might need to implement 5-6 methods and classes. This is more of like too much of scope for now. We'll be discussing the basic regular UDFs. So mostly, see, going to the UDFs itself is very rare scenarios. And yeah, so writing custom UDFs, regular UDFs is more than sufficient for us, at least. Unless until there is very research item, that is research project that's going on, something like that. Otherwise, all the aggregate functions that you need, bare minimum, are already available in Hive. Okay. And UDTF is also one another advanced stuff. Converting a table, one collection item into a table. This is taking a set of rows and giving one aggregated value, and this is taking one value and giving a table set of rows. Okay. But if we focus on the regular UDFs, same as in PIC, there was a filter function or eval function classes that we extended when we were writing our custom UDFs. So here we should extend this arp.apache.hadoop.hive.ql.exec.udf. So this Hive QL exec UDF, this is the class that we must extend. And there we have implemented exec method, and here we have to provide implementation for at least one of the evaluate method. In remaining steps, also same. There we had register jar file, and here we have add jar name. And there we have created a alias using the define and an alias name and the main class. Here you have create temporary function or create permanent function. So two types of functions you can create. Temporary means that will be, as you already know, that temporary will be available as long as the current session continues. So permanent function means this jar you should copy this into Hive lib jars folder instead of adding this jar to shell every time. You should copy this to Hive lib jars, and that is something in administrator's hand. They will be doing that, but mostly, in case in real time, if you want to have it permanently added into Hive library, you can raise a request to administrators. They will copy the jar file into the Hive lib, and you can create a permanent function. Create instead of temporary, use the permanent keyword function and function name as your main class name from this jar, including the package. So since in this I didn't use the packages, I didn't mention that. Then once you define this function, there in pig you use in for each generate statements, which is nothing but same as your select classes, right? Here also we'll use that select classes, that the newly defined function. Okay. So whatever the function that I have given in this, and the link for this is one another real-time scenario. I will leave this for your assignment, but I will tell you one another real-time user-defined function. So that is the date conversions. So mostly you will get different types of source dates. Sometimes you may get YYY MMDD. Sometimes you may get 4Ys MMDD. Sometimes you may get YYY/MM/DD. Sometimes you get MMDD YYY. This was one of the real-time UDF that we wrote and gave it to one of the project lead. So there, it was not fixed that, because we were getting the dates from different sources, records from different sources, and each one might follow a different standard on date. So what we made is, whatever the source file might be, we'll be applying this UDF. If it finds this way, automatically it checks whether the given date pattern, the column value is in this format, or in this format, or in this format. So that we'll also ask that user to, if it is 6 characters length, we might not be able to identify, or if it is 8 characters length. So we will not be able to identify whether it's YYYY MMDD or MMDD YYYY. But that will be given in the source system itself. But whatever the target that we need, finally we'll convert that into in this format. YYY MM-DD. This is the Unix, not Unix, this is the Hive standard date and time format. Okay, let me explain this code. So I am just imported Hive related Hive QL exec UDF and written some Hive date UDF class extending the UDF and provided implementation to evaluate method. So that's what we have seen in that slide, right? So evaluate method, this expects two parameters. One is the actual date string. So you'll pass 2016 06/28 and comma, I will tell the pattern as YYYYMMD. So if that is this format, this is very simple plain Java logic. Nothing is there. So current date format and expected date, I just declared those two variables for my use. And I know this pattern that is coming from input. And I use case statements, switch case statements. If it matches YYYYMMDD, I'm simply calling the Javas. So in Java, we have simple date format used for date conversions from one format to another format. The same thing you might have observed even in big UDFs. Inside the exec method, whatever the implementation that we are trying to achieve, we are achieving through Java APIs. There we converted into uppercase or length of the string or reverse of a string or whatever it is. We called equivalent Java methods there and got the results achieved. Then we were sending those results back. Same thing here also. I'm calling the simple date format and passing this date format, this value. This is my source format that I'm receiving. With this, I created an object and parsed this date. This is in this pattern, and I pass the input date string. Now I have that current date format object. The date is present in this. So after all the case statements, the expected date, new simple date format, the target date format, and format of current date format. Here just I'm using only two methods. One for parsing the source and other one is to format into the target format and returning the expected date. And for your project, anything dependencies that you should keep in this project is, so Hive QL exec jar. Hive exec jar, that I will show you here itself. This will be present and available in user lib hive lib. User lib hive lib folder hive-exec.jar will be available. So just import that. So with that, you will be able to run this. Okay. Now, let's prepare this as a jar. Export. It gets created in my home directory, hive date udf.jar. Let me show some tables to you. Okay, and define this. No need of tables also for our table, for our user-defined function. Let me specify this add jar and provide this jar file. Legal character and scheme at index. Query return non-zero file colon. Let me see. File colon / yes. Okay. So this got added from this location. Added dot jar to class path. Added resources. It's been present in my across everywhere. Now I can create a temporary function. Create temporary function date convert. Yeah, I call this as a date converter. So date converter, create temporary function date converter as the main class name that is present in this. I hope everyone is observing the steps involved in this. Now select date converter of your date, which is string, like 16 YYMM 2000 June 27, and let me give the pattern YYMMDD. So you got 2016 06 27, right? So whatever the date format that I gave here, so I'm getting in the unique Hive standard date and time format. Now you can try this with MMDDYY, which is 16. You got the same. So that's it. The basic steps, the basic funda that you need to keep in mind is that extend UDF class, implement, evaluate that method, and build a jar and add that to Hive shell or Hive lib folders. Hive shell or Hive lib folders by administrators. If it is through Hive lib folders, we have to do it administrators. Then copy, add that to Hive shell. It's fine. Create a temporary function. temporary or permanent, then start using the function. Using function and select statements. All these will be useful in select statements.
Shiva?
Yes, son.
You created already the jar file. Why do we need to create the temporary function? Because the jar file can be called, right?
Jar file, do you remember in pig we defined a function alias?
Yeah, I remember, but I forgot why did we do that? Because if we just call the jar,
okay,
just
that's
pass
really really a nice question. Yes, you can use the directly this class name, but here for simplicity, I kept only just a smaller class name and no packages. That's why I can use this Hive date UDF as it is. Otherwise, what will happen is you have to give the fully qualified class name and all that. You can try some this. In Pig, you can do this. Yep. In Hive, this is the problem that you will get left. So you have to declare it as a function.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Pig you can try this. It will work, but in Hive, it enforces you to define, give a name, function name to it. Otherwise, there might be multiple jars that you will be adding to your Hive. Then it will not identify which ones are the functions and which ones are dependency jars.
Got it. But then, in this case, the jar you wrote in the Java, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a jar. And then, if we create like a loop or whatever, not loop, but if we pass some variable,
Mm-hmm.
will that work? Or like function is a variable here, right? Sort of, right? Probably.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is one of the, you can ask, I mean, sometimes in your interview questions, they will ask you, when did you write your user-defined function in real time? You will definitely get this question. Okay, so that's why I explained this with some real-time program. So this makes sense, right? I mean, in real time, you will get files from different sources and not everyone follows the same date format. So if it is India, the standard date format is like, they start with DD, MM, YYYY. But in US, you will get all the dates in this format, MM, DD, YYYY format. Most of the places, month comes first.
Yeah, this is our ETL transformation. We do this, right?
Yep, yep. Okay, next. There is one more UDF present in this article. You can go through that for another real-time scenario where we use UDFs. Okay, so next, JDBC client. So far we have seen all our Hive tables, accessing them through Hive shell. So what if I want to access those table contents through your Java program, and I want to loop through them and pass it on to another program or whatever it is. Okay, so this is a typical JDBC program. For if you are already aware of any JDBC program to Oracle or MySQL or anything, then it's the same stuff. So you just need to make use of some of the SQL classes, Java SQL classes, the driver manager, and connection class to make a connection to this your DB. And driver manager is the class is the driver that used to interact with your JDBC. And result set, once you get the results from a select query or something, in order to iterate through each and every result, you will use this. And statement is used to prepare your statements, select queries or whatever the queries that you want to run. For creation of those statements, we'll use this. And one thing that you have to keep in mind is that, so in order to run your JDBC clients, you should have Hive server running in the background. Both Hive server and Hive Metastore services running in the background. So far, we have seen, we logged into Hive shell. We didn't check whether a Hive server is running or not. Even if it is not running, that is not mandatory. If you remember the first day architecture, Hive architecture, when I was telling, so in order to interact with through JDBC or ODBC, you need the Hive server. JDBC request will go through Hive server and make a connection to your driver. Your CLI or web GUI, no need of the Hive server to be running. They will always have a connection to the driver. Okay. So coming back to this, in Oracle, like you will have some com.oracle something, the driver, or if it is MySQL, com.mysql.jdbc.driver. And similarly, if it is Postgres, you will find corresponding the class name. So here we have r.apache.hive.jdbc.hive driver. JDBC.hive driver. Even this driver will be part of your Hive exec jar only. You don't need to copy any other jars as far as I know. Okay. So just even if you see here, I don't have any other jars. This Hive test utils, these are fine. If services is also not. Hive JDBC. Yeah. This is one another jar that you might need. So that Hive exec, or very simple thing is that you can try is import all user lib hive lib jars into your project. Okay. Whenever you are building, configuring the build path, so when you go for build path, configure build path, just import all the Hive libraries, add external jars, go to user lib Hive, go to lib, include all these libraries. Okay, if you have any other dependencies also, any classes missing, and whenever, I mean, I'm getting some messages, mails from people, whenever you get class not found error, class not found exception, or no class definition error, either of these two, the root cause is same. Your class is not available for, it is trying to find that .class file, but it's not having that jar available in the project. Okay, so for that, you have to first use that fully qualified class name and give that class name along with the package name in the Google, and you will find into which jar that will be present, and just download that jar and add it to your project. Okay. Now I have declared my driver name, and in my public static void main method of the Java. So I'm registering that class dot for name the driver. This is called as driver registration. Okay, class dot for name, and getting a connection from that driver using this driver class. So the very first statement that I do is driver manager dot get connection. Get connection is the static method on driver manager. Get connection. I'll provide the connection URL. So JDBC colon Hive 2. So earlier we were using Hive when we were having Hive server. Now we are using Hive server 2. Okay. So no longer Hive server is existing. There are some disadvantages in the sense limitations with Hive server, and they got overcome, especially with respect to security. Let's not go beyond this level. That is sufficient, because that was older one. That older server used to call as theft server, and the new server is Hive server 2. Okay. Okay. So I'm just giving that connection string JDBC Hive 2, and my Hive server is running by default on 10,000 port number, and so on, so host name, and this is the default database that I want to connect. And I have to provide the username and password to connect to it. Okay. Now, statement, I'm preparing a statement on that connection. So now I got a connection to the database. On that connection object, I will be creating a statement, SQL statement. So for that SQL statement, what I'm using the table name as employee data. So let me see if that table is present already or not. Show tables. So EMP data is there. Let me drop table. Oh, so I already have that, even the drop table statement. It could have run successfully even if I had given. Yeah. So I have this table name EMP data, and the very first statement, that once I get the SQL statement object, statement.execute drop table name. So if that table is present in my Hive, I want to drop that first. Then recreate the table name, and with 3 columns: ID, integer, name string, department string. The same SQL queries I am passing through your Java code. That's it. String SQL equal to show tables of table name. Now I created the table, so I'm testing whether this table is present or not. Okay, and running SQL statement.execute query of SQL show tables queries will be running, and all the results that will come out of the show tables table name, I will be printing them. And describe table name. So, and the result of that description will also I will print. And similarly, so here I have shown you drop table, create table, show tables, and describe table, and few others, like running a select query and looping through those results. I just commented this, or loading data also from the load data local in path, you can try these things. Just uncomment this code and run in your Eclipse or run in your.
Sure.
You can run in your Eclipse or you can build a jar and run it there. Okay. So let me run this program for you.
Hey Shiva.
Yeah.
Yes, normally in the real time, like the user ID and password will be mentioned in the properties file, right?
User ID and password, these things.
Yes.
Yes, properties file. You will confidentially read. So because I can't highlight, I mean, make it that complex. Some others will not get it right. So,
Okay.
so at least you know where to pass the username and password, and how to protect is something that is something the extra next level of doing that. This is common anywhere. Like you will be giving this username and password in some secured file, properties file, and from that properties file you will have another extra Java logic to read in from another text file and get those values and substitute those values here. That's but with corresponding to this Hive JDBC client scope, this is sufficient. That is something protection of your data or your confidential data. How do you handle in Java?
Shiva, one more question.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can execute the queries, Hive queries, like by writing Hive queries, why do you need a Java client?
In real time, you may not be having always the Hive shell access. What if you don't have the edge node access at all? See, first of all, let's say if you don't have edge node access, you just know the JDBC URL. I mean, this is something weird. Real time, where you need this is, you want to automate something. Of course, you can do it through Hive scripts also. When something you need to process from an Excel sheet and then load that through, which is not possible in your Hive shell scripts. And if you feel like that can be completed through your JDBC, then you can prefer this. And this is one. And the other thing is, when you want to expose your tables data to some front-end web UI screens.
So like every time you have to create a new table, you have to write a new JDBC client.
No. See, these are sample statements that I am showing you here. Creation of a table, dropping table. Here you can run any queries, man. These are just SQL queries.
Okay.
The above 3 steps are needed for. So I thought I will show you one sample for each of these queries. That's it.
Okay.
No, this is not fixed sequence. So up to here only the sequence, like register your driver class name and get a connection and create a statement object. Once you have that statement object, you can execute any SQL statement. Okay. Suppose if you have a table, user table, and you have some front-end UI screens on your web browser, on your website. You want to display all the users that are present in your backend DB into that front-end UI screen. Then what will you do? Your Hive shell script will help anywhere? No. Because with your UI, with your user screens, front-end screen, the interaction happens through Java. So your EXT.js or AngularJS, those services, they will, in order to populate those values in a user-defined screen, they will make a call, Java call to backend, and that Java program can do that select star from user table based on the condition, whatever the condition. The username starts with so on, something like that. And you will run this query in the backend and you will get the results you will send those results back to your UI. Okay. If you integrate this JDBC logic into some Spring MVC framework, the J2EE advanced, you can build some web services. Okay. So that is something purely J2EE kind of course, but let's not worry about that. Maybe if you guys are interested, you can explore Spring MVC framework and build a simple MVC project and expose an API to fetch data from a table and show in on a web API browser through some REST client or whatever that you feel like. That's the max, the peak level that you use in real time. Beyond that, you don't need anything else.
Shiva,
Yes, Anand.
if I want to authenticate multiple users through like a database authentication,
Yep.
can I do that?
Yes. This answers. I mean, the answer is from the same question that Satish was asking, where you can provide your username and password in a properties file, and you can read in from that file. So whatever the username or password that you provide in the properties file, or you can give different set of usernames and passwords, and based on a scenario, you can pass them those properties file to your as argument to your file or something. It can be.
But see what that is a file authentication. That I get it. It's a file authentication. See, but passwords are not accessible, right? Usually.
Yep.
So in that case, how do we get it?
Password, you can get it through that file, right? You can read it from that file.
No, we cannot get the password in the file, right? Password is something encrypted, or maybe it's at the database level, right? Where
passwords will be maintained in a secure, just a read-only file that only this Hive user, or with whatever the username that you are running this JDBC client, only that user will have read-only access to that file.
Okay.
Typically, that is what maintained in Hadoop. You will have your passwords in a file only, but that file will be only read-only access and only to that one user, not for everyone, not for anyone else. No one else will have read, write, or execute access. No access to that. Only one user, that is the system user.
Oh, got it. Okay, so it will be at some default location, something. Okay,
yeah.
Like a secured location. Okay.
Correct.
Is it
not be secured location? It can be anywhere in the directory, but you will disable the permissions for that file for everyone. Except
Is this very typical? Is this very typical setup?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I have some further questions, but we'll talk later. I don't want to take right now the time, but
okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah. So two real good questions from both of you. But the thing is, I don't make that much complex in the sessions itself, because you are experienced. You know protection of all these things, and this is a typical process in Hive or in Oracle or anywhere that you follow. Same thing you have to follow, but the bare minimum you need to understand is this stuff. There also, since your Oracle might not read or someplace, and in your Windows you can't secure your files, you might be following some encryptions, but here in Hadoop you can achieve the security through just file permission. So you make use of that files.
See, I was not going to take this, but quickly, I was talking more about if I want to use Golden Gate.
What is
something
Golden Gate?
Okay, that's fine. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. Yeah. So I think everyone is on same page, right? Is everyone clear with the steps? So I just registered the driver class name and prepared a connection, got a connection by giving the connection URL and username and password, and created a statement object. And once I got the statement object, on the statement execute method, I'm calling every time execute, create table or drop table or all these things. So here on statement, you will have two types of methods mainly, execute and execute query. So execute is something where you are not expecting any result, where you are not expecting anything response. So drop table, it simply drops the table there in Hive. You will not get any response. For create table, it creates the table there, you will not get any response. For show tables, you will get some records, right? You will get list of tables. Then that is called execute query, we call that. And you will get a result set, result. And for every result.next, you will be processing through that result set. And same describe also, it will give you some result. So that's why we call execute query. And even select star from, you can see it this way. Okay, now let me, so I can either run it from the same Eclipse itself, or you can build a jar and from there you can run. We'll try to open client transport. So resolved authority to quick start 10,000 port number, JDBC URI. Running show tables EMP data, and only one table is there with EMP data, and running describe EMP data. And these are the columns that it has. So you ran all the 4 types of queries in this. Okay, and create some sample data in some input.txt file, somewhere keeping that in Cloudera or something, and load that local in path file into a table using this statement. Okay, and then run the select star from EMP data and print me those results using this. In the result set, if you have multiple values, as you can see here, in the same row, see, result.next, you will get 1 record in this result. And within that, if you have multiple fields, you can access them with index of 1, of 2, of 3, like that. Okay, so here I think I'm referring to, see. Okay, I will leave this for your practicing on that. Now, so far, whatever we were seeing, Hive shell that I was showing you, right? So it was not making any JDBC connection to your Hive server. Let me show you this Beeline introduction. So the next topic that I wanted to highlight. So Hive equal to, if I run this Hive, it will not make any JDBC connection. So it doesn't need Hive server 2 to be running. And one problem with this Hive is it can't enable the security at a user level. Creation of rules, roles in data control language like Oracle, so which are in progress. Okay, which are in progress in Hive, not yet being implemented in anywhere, any of the environments, but all those implementations are in progress, not completely implemented, but still they are in progress. To enable that security, here in order to log in into Hive Shell, did anyone ask me the username or password first here? No. And there is no username password at all. How can I achieve the security? First of all, if I have username and password, then I can achieve the security at user level. Then I can create some groups. Since I have users, I can create user groups. Then I can assign them some roles. This user can see this table, and this user cannot see this table. Okay, so that's the reason this Hive CLI is missing that security part. So because of that, Hive CLI is going to be deprecated, and Hive community recommends us to migration to Beeline is good to start with now. You can run all our queries in Beeline also. Okay, it's not that it is something new.
Sure.
No. Yes, Satish.
Is Beeline some kind of a UI or?
It's not UI, it's just on one another terminal. I'm going to show you. So Beeline version 1.1 by, even this Beeline is another shell kind of, another terminal kind of tool where you can submit your commands to. Beeline it can act like an interface to any of your JDBCs, not just to Hive. Since you, the way this kind of JDBC programs, you can write to any JDBC, right? You can write, if you remove this Hive 2 here, and if you put Oracle and some thin driver, and if you change the port number, it can connect to your Oracle. And if you make it MySQL here, and if you make the port number as 3306 or something, then it will connect to MySQL. The same way, your Beeline is an interface to any of your JDBC databases, JDBC supported databases. Okay, so we'll give that command connect, the same so we'll be connecting through the JDBC server. No current connection. It should be that. Or let me see the connection statement syntax. Dot connect, exclamation connect. Okay. This is the command. Can you just give this? So scan complete in 4 milliseconds, connecting to this JDBC, enter username with which you want to log in. If you don't know the username and password, you can't log in. The username and passwords are Hive. Username is Hive and password is Cloudera. Okay, now connected to Apache Hive driver, Hive JDBC driver, and it has given you the prompt for your Hive server. Now here you can run any of your typical queries. Show tables, select star from customers, limit 10. So from here onwards, it's pretty same. Only thing is, it enables the security on your Hive server. Okay, so from today onwards, you can start using Beeline straight away.
Siva, I'm sorry, Siva. I'm a little bit lost here about Beeline. You were
See,
able to
it is one another shell. You have to log in into Hive. You will give one line, one command to connect into your Hive shell to your Hive. But on the extra thing that you see observe here is it asks you, it prompts you to enter the username and password. That's the only difference.
Oh, okay. So in order to use JDBC, you have to use Beeline. I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay. In order to
And
authenticate
this is
that.
not something, Beeline is not something that newly got introduced in Hive. This was present from long back in Apache. So this is one terminal interface, can be used to any RDBMS. You can connect to Oracle, you can connect to MySQL, you can connect to something else also. Let's say if I change this hyphen connect, maybe JDBC, those jars should be present, MySQL / localhost and 3306, I think, port number, and there I should give the, so connecting to MySQL JDBC. Now in MySQL, what are the password? Root and username is Cloudera. Let's see, you've got connected into MySQL. You are within Beeline only. Within the same, I can connect into MySQL or I can connect into Hive anyway. It's just a connection interface. That's it. It is not something new feature in Hive.
Since CLI is not supported in Hive, we have to use Beeline.
As of today, even CLI is supported. Slowly, it will get deprecated. You got the reason, right? User management, user authentication is not there in CLI.
Correct.
Here you have that extra security. So that's why this Hive community or even the typical enterprise requirements will get satisfied with this only. Otherwise, if anyone is having access to your edge node, they all can log in into your Hive and they can play with the tables, right?
Correct. So the Beeline, does it add more security layer? Is that what it is?
No. Beeline will not add any more security layers. It just accepts username and password.
Okay. It's just I see.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
So once you have usernames and once you have users, then you can talk about groups and roles and all that stuff in your RDBMS. See,
correct.
Your MySQL supports usernames and passwords and your whatever it is, the roles, groups and all. First of all, you don't even need a username to log in into your MySQL. Then does that make sense to have the groups, roles and all?
No, it doesn't. No.
Yep, that's the purpose.
It's basically authentication. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, basic user authentication. So once there onwards, since you identified this as okay, so someone got connected to Hive with this username, then I can decide what he can see and what he cannot see. Okay. So something in progress even in Hive. So rules and roles management and groups management, the data control language is something evolving. And even if that evolves, you don't need to worry. That will be controlled by administrators, purely topic for administrators.
Yeah, fair enough. But see, the problem is that we are so pampered, with this package software. We don't have to deal with this, right? So
you don't have to deal with?
Like like Oracle, right? We don't have to worry about authentication. Oracle already has built-in authentication, everything, right?
So that's why I used to give you one statement that treat this Hadoop or Hadoop related technologies as the initial days of your Oracle.
Correct.
I mean, do you know that even in initial days it was having this much of robust features? No.
Probably not.
Yeah. So slowly, year by year, it got evolving features, all those things. So that the same thing will happen with this also. There you are paying millions of dollars to get those features. Here nothing.
Yep.
So that's the difference. Okay. So that is a few lines about this Beeline. Few points about Beeline. Then, yeah, something I'm going a bit even more advanced. Now let me show you HP's Hive integration. You can try something sometime later. Now, once you can connect to any database through JDBC URLs, that's why I'm covering all the Java related stuff in one single session. Okay. So first we have seen basic JDBC client, and using that JDBC URL, you are able to connect through Beeline to your Hive. And now, so if you have that JDBC drivers and JDBC connection strings, you can connect to some reporting tools or some any visualization tools. Okay, so for example, I have given you one link here. I'm giving you one link. So most of you might be aware of Tableau as a data visualization tool. It can connect to your known RDBMSs, like it can connect to Oracle, MySQL, Netezza, Teradata, whatever it is. So now it also has support to connect to your Hive drivers. Okay. And out of this Tableau different versions, your Tableau desktop with 15 days free license you can download, and you can play with this. And you can't install server or public or online, but you can download the Tableau desktop into your Windows machine, and this can be installed only on Windows or your Mac operating systems. Okay, so just go through this documentation and download your ODBC drivers for your Hive server from this Cloudera site. Make sure that download ODBC drivers or since this Tableau supports only ODBC drivers, and there are some other tools that support both ODBC and JDBC drivers. We faced some issues with JDBC drive connecting to this Tableau tool via JDBC. That's why we downloaded Cloudera Hive ODBC drivers. And install them on your Windows machine and restart your operating system and open your Tableau once again, and you will find under data you will find a connect, and under connect you will find a lot of servers. On a server you can select Cloudera Hadoop. So once you click on Cloudera Hadoop, it prompts you to enter the username and it prompts you to enter the IP address and port number to which you want to connect. And this should be the IP address on which your Hive server 2 is running. Now, in case here, what you have to try with this is you can give the IP address of your quick start VM and the port number, and give this Hive server 2 here. And in Hive server, since this was prepared longer back, that time we were using just Hive server 1. So it was not asking any username and password. But in this drop down, you will get Hive server 2 also. So if you select Hive server 2, it prompts you to enter the username and password. Otherwise, it will not allow you to further continue. Okay. So once you enter the username and password and connect, you will be able to see the tables. First of all, you will be able to see the databases here. Select schema. You can see the database here. Default is the database that is having here. If you click on the search button. And once you select that default from this drop down, and it shows you option for table. And if you again click on the search button, it displays all the list of tables. And you can take any of these tables, drag and drop in this go to worksheet panel. Just drag and drop. You can drag and drop 2 or more tables also. You can join them and you can prepare some fancy charts with that data. So this was one chart that I prepared, like, so number of log messages count, error messages count for each day on 2014. So this was prepared on 2004. So it was almost like prepared in 2014 end. So you can see those values. 2014 1001, October 1st, this much of count, and 2012. So this was one table data only. In that one table, I selected one column as rows and another column as date. Like dates are selected in one index and counts are selected sum of number of records in another x-axis, y-axis. Then I can see these plots. Each day counts being displayed there. Similarly, you can connect to, using Tableau, as I was telling, you can connect to these many number of servers, not just these two. In this drop down, I didn't display all of them. You can connect to many places, like you can connect to Hortonworks Hadoop Hive, you can connect to IBM DB2, IBM Netija, MapR Hadoop Hive, or MySQL or MySQL Server. So your Tableau has extensive support to many RDBMs. Okay, you can join a few tables and build some reports. So if you write a plain select query for that every day, what is the count of records for each day? In your terminal, you will get output like this. You can put that into one sheet. And if you represent that in the bar charts, you can represent this way. And if you represent them in the bubble charts, you can show them in bubbles. The small count, smaller the bubble. The bigger count, bigger the bubble. And if you represent this in color coding kind of stuff, you can show this. So you can try a variety of different types of charts that are supported in Tableau, and you can build a dashboard and save that as a PDF and can be sent to business users. And generally, building these reports, building these dashboards will not be a role or responsibility of your Hadoop developer or Hadoop architect. For this, you will have a separate BI developers. Only thing is, I'm just showing you this so that you can have an idea. So how, once you get your data into your Hive or Impala or whatever, so how this data will be showcased to your end user, business user. So your business user will not come into your Hive shell and he will not query the tables. But he will get the monthly reports or weekly reports or quarterly reports by using these kind of tools. Okay, so this will be purely developed by your Tableau developers or BI developers. BI developers will be mostly familiar with almost all the BI tools, not just the Tableau. They might have idea on ClickView, ClickSense, Splunk, and MSBI, many things. So once you have JDBC URL support, you can connect to your Hive via any of those tools that I'm taking the names.
So what did you say? What did you say, Siva? Once you have what?
Once you have that JDBC connection URL.
Okay, JDBC. Yeah.
Yep. So using that JDBC URL, you can connect to n number of tools. You can connect to Talent. You can connect to Informatica. You can connect to do anything. Even in Informatica ETL tool, you can keep your Hive as source database, and one database, you can create one schema in Hive as a source and apply some transformations and store that back into another database or schema in the same Hive, or store it in somewhere else also. Yep. These tools are not yet completely full-fledged integrated, or something that I can say beyond certain data limit, these are not performing well. They all are releasing their own big data editions. Not the regular editions are not supporting. The big data editions, they're doing lots of tweaking and tuning kind of stuff, because the amount of data will be very huge, right? So when you're connecting to Hive means, so yeah, those areas are still in progress in real-time industry. Okay, but at least this is something that you should have a basic idea. Does it make sense? So it's nothing but a parameter file. I see some comments. In table structure, why are getting ID int data type 2 times? Oh, it's my coding fault. Like, I printed the same. See, result.get string of 2, and again tab separated result of get string of 2 only. I printed the same value 2 times, so that's why you saw that in the result 2 times. Int comma int, string comma string. And yeah, so mostly I would recommend everyone to try with this, play with this. Okay, whenever you get some time. I mean, it makes you some bit happy to see all these dashboards, charts from your data that is present in your Hive. Okay, so next topic, Hive on Tej. I will show you, at least from this article. Tab view integration. Hive on Tej. Hive on HBase. Let's see that sometime once we cover. You can explore Hunk ClickView also on Hive. So I'll leave that exploration to you. And even these authorization models, that DCL language I was talking about, right? Something still in progress. You can go through those articles. Tej is another advanced framework. You can see only one statement being changed. Once you're in your Hortonworks cluster, and by default these days in Hortonworks, your execution engine is Tej only. You don't even need to make this change also. In case if it is not, set Hive execution engine as Tej. That's it. Then you can run your sample queries. Then instead of running your MapReduce jobs, you can see it runs this Tej jobs. Even in Tej, you will find, yep. This is your typical MapReduce log messages. Once you make this just one line change in your Hive shell, set hive.execution.engine equal to Tej. This is especially for Hortonworks guys, I'm showing. So once I make this statement, and when I run this query, first name from user test, where country equal to US, limit 5, then it's submitting a job, and it also giving the map phases, map 1, 0 of 1, 0 of 1, and 1 of 1 it finished. It gave me results. And you can see the time differences also here. So it ran in 6 seconds. And previous MapReduce job, if you could have observed, select count of estimate. The first limit of 5, it was like 13 seconds. So from Tej, the next, you have seen the same count in 6 seconds. Time taken 6.734 for count. Here in MR, it's 18 seconds. 6 and 18, it's almost like 300% faster. But the minimum guarantee is that double the speed. This query ran 6 seconds with Tej, and whereas MR engine, it took 18 seconds. Okay. There is nothing coding here, even you can see this. Just only one property I set up. Remaining all are just screenshots. Just go through it.
Siva, you had mentioned that Tej is a little slower. What was that? That scenario was different, huh?
Tej is available in Hortonworks, not in Cloudera. Okay. And Tej is little slower, not little, too slower than your Impala.
Oh, that's Impala.
I mean, I iterated this topic again and again.
Correct.
Slow. You know that MapReduce is slow.
Correct.
Because Hive is slow because your MapReduce itself is slow. So now you have, if it is Apache, they don't bother about much providing on how to improve speed. And if you are commercial vendors, you'll try to find solutions for that because you will be making business out of it. Apache is not making business out of it. So, but these guys are making business out of it. So now you have two competitors. One is Cloudera and the other one is two major competitors, Hortonworks. This guy started with his innovations and he invented this Tej. Like he introduced Tej. This guy started and introduced Impala. And this improved 2 to 4 times speed. But this introduced almost like 30 to 40 times speed. This is written in Java. This is written in C++. This is more of like it can run on Yarn. Okay, they have their own pros and cons. This is Java based. Java framework can be used by any guys. But here C++, if you want to write any advanced UDFs inside this, it will be a bit complex or something. And the resource management will not be done in Yarn, not Yarn. It will have its own Impala resource management, but this is anyway. Resource management is not typically your developer's task. Your administrator is responsible for that. Okay, and so they have their own plus and minus, but finally, because of Impala, Cloudera got so popular and widely being used and Hortonworks.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so in case we can't guarantee that you will work in only Cloudera, not in Hortonworks, right? So in case if you want to, if you are into Hortonworks, you can, the better optimization that you can do the Hortonworks is start using Tej than MapReduce. MapReduce, You will observe going forward in each and every session, always everyone try to avoid MapReduce. One reason is its performance. Second reason is its complexity.
Is Hortonworks cheaper than Cloudera support?
Hortonworks is very cheaper than Cloudera support.
Okay.
And you will see more Indian flavors in Hortonworks, Indian culture.
Okay.
More number of Indian engineers. That's why Tej means speed in Hindi.
Correct.
That's where they gave that name. And we have one more called Ambari, means the elephant rider in Hindi, right?
Correct.
So elephant means Hadoop. And who manages Hadoop?
Ambari.
Hadoop management will be done. In Cloudera, we call that as Cloudera manager, but in Hortonworks, we call that as Ambari.
Okay.
Hadoop rider or Hadoop manager.
Got it.
Okay, so that is about that. Next, another very, very important topic, performance tuning. So this topic, HBase integration with Hive, either I will cover, or if I forget, just go through it. It's just a matter of creation of a table with syntax change. Okay, but anyway, just remind me, I will show you, because I didn't keep this link in the HBase slide, so I might forget. But if I forget, just let me know. I can explain it. Otherwise, go through this link and explore on it your own. Okay, but for now, let me take up this performance tuning topic. Okay. So what are the various ways that you can improve your query performances? So typically, your basic select queries or your create statements or describe statements or short statements, all these will be running very fast only. You will observe issue with joins. Joins are costliest operations in any RDBMS or even in Hive as well. So there, it needs a lot of data movement and data relations, and you need to build it, the result set. First thing you can do with this is, since it runs in the background MapReduce, you can compress your intermediate data also. So once after your map phase, your data will be written into your local file system, right? Your mapper's output will be written into local file system, and from there, that will get copied onto your reducers. If your mapper output is huge in size, that takes relatively long time. You can compress that intermediate output data, and you can reduce some data transfer time. How can you enable that compression? Is just by setting a couple of properties. Enable compression in Hive. Okay, don't look in these XML properties files. These can be done by only administrators, but something that you can do from shell is this one. Hive.exec.compress.intermediate equal to true. And what is the compression codec that you can use? Snappy codec. And with respect to compression codecs, so my strongest recommendation is always to go with Snappy codec. Snappy only. snappy compression. And I explained, I think, the ZZip, deflate, and BZ2, all these are non-splittable. And Snappy and LZO are splittable, but LZO has lots of complexity to implement that. And Snappy does a good, decent job. And this is from Google. This compression technique got introduced by Google. Okay, so you can set this property. This intermediate compression type block. This is optional unless until you are using some sequence files in your Hive queries. So this property is no longer makes sense. You can start omitting that. So just set this property into compress.intermediate equal to true and set the compression codec as. So do we have joins in Hive? Why not? Joins, I think I have shown you, right? No? Same join statement. Your select queries join statement. Select A dot star, comma, B dot star. From A, join B on A dot ID equal to B dot ID. It's, I mean, as I was telling it, like it's more like 95% of your ANSYS standard supported. It's the same syntax of joins in your RDBMS. Okay, so you can enable that intermediate data compression, or you can also enable the final output compression also. exec.compress.output equal to true. The final output data will also get compressed. When you are storing into some other table or some other file, you can enable your compression techniques. Here I used ZZip codec just to showcase how to use this, that's it. But not recommending to use this. Just an example. Okay, so if you want to put all of these properties in one place, you can do this. Hive exec compress output, final output as compressed, and map reduce output file output format compress equal to true. And compression codec is, you can specify snappy codec here, and compress intermediate is also true. Okay, so once after we set all those properties, and here.
Sure.
Yes, Satish.
So when you use this Java client, you want to mention like what compression techniques you have to use.
What
so
compression technique in Java?
No. When you use the Java client, so where do you put in like which compression technique you have to use?
You can set your. You can just make these set statements itself in the shell. Once you make the connection, you can directly execute this set statements.
Okay.
Or you can write them in the initialization script, and you can execute that script.
Or you can put in like a hivesite.xml.
Yeah, but you don't have access to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is to deal with your compression, enabling compression on intermediate data and compression on final output. So next, another important topic that you should keep in mind is that optimizing your joins by setting some properties. But here I think I gave you only the XML level properties, XML property code here, but you can run all these things like set hive.auto.convert.join equal to true. In your Hive shell, this is same as specifying this property in hivesite.xml file. Instead of specifying this property, name, value, description property in hivesite.xml file, just one set statement, set space hive.auto.convert.join equal to true, which is same as setting your property in this shell. Now, coming to the optimization techniques in joins, I was telling you in MapReduce the last session. So we can perform two types of joins. One is map side join, and two is reduce side joins. These are technically speaking. Okay, you will always have those joins like inner join, outer join, left outer, out, right outer, all those joins. To perform those joins, technically we have two categories: map side joins and reduce side joins. And as I was telling you, map side joins will always run faster because you don't need to transfer so much of data through your mapper output and shuffle, shorten phase and partitioning phase, and then finally coming to reducer, and there you are joining and then dropping some of the data which is not matching. So instead of doing that, if you can combine your joins at the map side itself, they will run faster. So to enable that, your Hive can automatically detect if one table is small enough to fit into main memory and if the other table is bigger. Okay, if both are smaller, it tries to put one table in memory and it keeps the other table on disk and it joins them. So at least one table in those two are small enough, then it can automatically convert that join into as a map side join. So to Hive do that for us, we have to set one property, hive.autoconvert.join. Automatically convert that into map side join if one of the table size is small enough to put in main memory. That's it. That one property is enough. Okay, so these are something bit advanced, special asks about like auto convert join, non-conditional task. So whether Hive enables the optimization about converting common join into map join based on the input file size. If this parameter is on, and the sum of the size for n-1 of the tables or partitions for a n-way join is smaller than the specified join, the join is directly converted to a map join. So it considers like if you have multiple tables and if all those table sizes are sum of size for n-1 of the tables. If you have n tables, meaning 2 or 3 or 4, and then so leaving that one table, bigger table aside, and all those sizes are fit enough to put inside a memory, then it tries to do that. And non-conditional task size, you can specify. So how much size, up to how much size you want to keep it in main memory. It's in number of bytes. You can specify this in 100 MB or something. Or if your cluster sizes are very huge, you can even go beyond 200, 300, 500, up to 500 MB also. Okay. And we have seen skew joins in PIG. There, this using skew join, the class, we optimize those kind of joins. In PIG, just specifying one line. Here also, just setting one property is sufficient for us. So hive.optimize.skew join equal to true will enable the optimization on that skew join.
So map join is specifically, is it only loading to temp table? Is that the map join?
Loading into temp table meaning?
Meaning using the small table into temp space.
See, you have two tables. One is bigger and one is smaller. Then instead of reading both the tables from disk in each and every map task, So that will get copied onto main memory of each of the data nodes or node managers. And from that main memory, it reads that smaller table and joins with the bigger table. So since you are making use of the distributed caching mechanism, you will get better speed.
But we are still doing the join though. Technically,
yes, we are still doing the join. We're still doing the join.
Right. Is there any mechanism where we are not doing join and using something else like I can't remember right now.
Distributed cache. We looked up lookup table.
Oh, lookup there.
Okay. And in case if you have bucketed tables, I mean I was giving you this one and the reason, right? How bucketing, the pros side of bucketing feature. So if you have bucketed tables, on that bucketed column, if you join them, and if you want to enable bucketed map join, you can set this property hive.optimize.bucket map join. Then each of those buckets will copy into main memory, and then map side join will happen. Need not your table to be small enough to put entire table in main memory. If two tables, both the tables are big only, and if both the tables are bucketed by a column, and if you enable this property, one bucket from each of the tables will be copied into main memory, and then join will happen. I hope everyone is catching up these points. These are something advanced, but since your Hive is relatively performing slow many places, you should know these tips and tricks to improve the speed of it. Okay. And Hive community recommendation is that do not use order by. If you use order by, I mean, do not use in the sense, try to reduce it as much as you can. So order by will give you the global sorting, but it comes with the drawback that it runs only one reducer. And if you use sort by, you will get sorted records at reducer level, and distribute by, this is something like partitioning your data by category or by department or something, and then within that department you can sort them. So recommendation is to use the combination of these two instead of order by. In most of the real-time scenarios where you might need sorted by records at a department level, at a country level, at some other group level. So if that is the case, then the recommendation is to select ID, name, salary, department from employee, distribute by department, and sort by ID ascending and name descending. Name descending if you keep it as it. So you are trying to sort your records at a department level. Okay. So anyway, you will not get, in case even in this case, if you want global sorted records, you will not be able to achieve with these two classes. But it's recommendation that not for every simple use case, don't use order by. Try to avoid as much as you can. And in case if you are in Hortonworks, enable your Tez execution engine by setting this property. And yeah, this is one of the important property that you should keep in mind. So optimize limit operator. So generally what will happen is, if you have a 1 million record table and if you applied some query, and you want only the results, top 5, I mean, you want only just 5 records. So what will happen is, in the backend, if it is just having a complete table or something, or it will run that entire query, and finally the results will be restricted to 5. Okay, it will not restrict the input data itself. That means if you, even if the file underlying table is 1 million records, that entire 1 million records will be processed and all results will be extracted. So say out of this 1 million, you got 10,000 records. So you will get that 10,000 result set first, and then out of those 10,000 result set, you will show only the 10 records since you applied limit 10. Whereas in Oracle and all, while processing itself, once they reach 10th record in the result set, they come out of execution. They will not calculate another 9,990 records. But in Hive, by default, it calculates all the 10,000. It finds, it extracts all the 10,000 records, and then it limits them to 10. So in order to avoid that scenario, you can set this hive.limit.optimize.enable equal to true. And this one, instead of counting on the records, you will tell how many maximum rows that you have to consider for limit from the input file itself. It's not based on your result set, but it's based on your input table. How many input records at max you want to consider in case whenever you apply any limit operators. When trying a smaller subset of data for simple limit, how much size we need to guarantee each row to have at least. Limit file size. So these some properties like limit optimize fetch max. And you can enable, you can increase the parallel processing threads, just making this how many jobs at most can be executed in parallel. This is a server level parallel enabling, not at a job level. So in server, how many Hive jobs, parallel Hive jobs how many users can submit Hive jobs parallelly at a time. But coming to the job level, so this property is important. Reducer for control parallel reduced task, this one. So hive.exit.reducers.max. So if you set 100 reducers here for your Hive job, it will run 100 reducers parallelly, and it will improve the performance. But you should not simply put the number of reducers there, because you will end up in creation of smaller files if you don't use the optimal reducer number of reducers. Okay, and there is one map reduce strict mode and non-strict mode. And by default, your Hive will have non-strict mode. And in this non-strict mode, the mode in which Hive operations are being performed, in strict mode, some risky queries are not allowed to run. They include Cartesian product. Cartesian product will not be executed in strict mode, and no partitioning being picked up for a query. So if you run a query, that's where it has thrown us the error message saying that. So when we didn't specify the partition value there yesterday in the dynamic partitioning, country comma state, just we left that into partition country comma state, but I didn't specify the country value or state value. So no partition being picked up for a query. That time it throws an error message. Cartesian product means just your mathematical Cartesian products. You have seen Cartesian co-group kind of stuff, or Cartesian in pig. Okay, something 1, 2 and 3, 4 are there, right? If you want to join them, it's more like a join, but it need not be the same keys. It maps with every records on left table, and it maps every records with that right table.
It's sort of a circular join.
Yep,
circular, right?
Yep. Okay. Then, yeah, so that is, anyway, this is not much of importance here. So no partitioning being picked up for a query. This one we have experienced yesterday. Okay, and comparing big-ins and strings is not possible in strict mode. And comparing begins and doubles, begins with strings and begins with doubles, I think. Order by without limit. Order by is runs only one reducer, right? And if you don't use the limit and limit optimizer, it will not run that order by in strict mode. So in those cases, you can set this property as hive.mapred.mode as non-strict in case you want any of these queries features to be available. Next, these are okay. And these enable vectorization, enable cost-based CBO, cost-based optimization. These are something new features that got introduced from 0.13 onwards, Hive 0.13 onwards, from last 1 year, I can say. So prior to that, they were not there. So vectorization is something that take some set of rows at a time to process. So like we can improve performance of operations like scans, aggregations, filters, and joins by performing them in a batches of 1024 rows at once instead of single row each time. Instead of applying your operation, your aggregation operation or scan operation or filter operation, one row at a time, it uses in the background 1024 rows at a time. For this, you don't need to do anything extra. Just set these 3 properties. That's enough. Execution, vectorized execution enable true, vectorized execution, reduce enable true, vectorized execution, reduce group by enable true. These 3 properties. And for cost-based optimization also, you don't need to understand the backend reasons for this. Just set these properties. Even this was one of the new features that recent Hive releases provided, the feature of cost-based optimization. CBO.enable equal to true, and Hive compute query using stats. So this is something like compute stats will be used in queries. If you are from data warehouse background, so you know the purpose of compute stats. That compute stats means that will be a command in RDBMSs that will gather the statistics of how many number of records are there in the table, how many columns are there, how many non-null values are there for each column, and how many partitions are there. These kind of statistics. It will scan through that table once and it calculates all the statistics and it keeps somewhere in the metadata. Then whenever you find a count star queries or count of 1 queries, then it need not to rescan that. It can give that from that statistics itself.
See what is called as run stats. Run stats command.
What is command?
Run stats.
Rel stats. Not sure. Okay. Compute stats is the one that we run in even in Impala. We can.
Okay.
But in Hive, if you want to enable this, Hive compute query using stats. So then, if there are any queries like count queries, it will not rescan your table. It will simply fetch those values and shows your results. Then it will be quicker, right? Okay, so we can start. I mean, you can go through those things and using the right file formats. And especially with Hive, the recommended file format is use ORC file format because of its the smaller the size and faster the performance speed also.
Siva, sorry to interrupt you quickly. The run stats is done on index. So, but we don't have index here, right? So, where do we do this now?
We don't have index. See, stats, computing stats means what? It just reading your, scanning your entire table, storing how many records are there, how many columns are there, how many non-null values for each column. This collection of information.
So it's on a table. It's on table itself.
On table itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think when you somebody wants to write a count star on a table, it will not do the complete table scan.
It will not complete. It will not do the complete scan of the table. It simply fetches that count.
Yeah, but do you know, Shiva, if it is run nightly or is by default? How does it work though? When does a compute stat run?
Once you load a table into whenever, I mean, this is not nightly or something. This is something that user has to run. Once you create a table and whenever you load the data into that table, you have to trigger this. Like if you see here, Hive stats.autogather and Hive stats.db class and fetch column stats and all these things.
If you come down,
analyze, I mean, there is a command called analyze, I think.
Yeah, if you come down, I think you mentioned right there. Come down. Yeah, right here. Yep. About the word. Yeah, that's
table for compute statistics. This compute statistics is the table command. So you do the analyze table and compute statistics for columns or table. You can specify that. Now this will have how many non-null values, how many distinct values in this column. And next time when a user submits distinct count of a column name, then it will not rescan that table once again. So that way your statistics will be useful in some places to reduce your performance time. You will get faster results and using the right file formats, appropriate file formats. ORC is recommended and sample ORC files creation I have shown you. And again on ORC, recommended compression technique is snappy.
I have one question here.
Yep.
On the compression, when we give compression on all the tables, so how does the decompression happens? Is it happen automatically or you have to give?
It will identify automatically. You don't need to specify that.
Okay.
The framework will handle at the time of reading. Okay. So this, believe me, if you can understand all these topics in this slide, you are good to crack any interview related to Hive. Mostly, you will get your real-time queries like what are the file formats that you use in Hive, what are the compression techniques that you use in Hive, what types of joins, how do you improve the performance of joins, and how do you improve the reducers, increase the reducers, and how can you increase the limit optimization. So these things. So some of the interview questions you may get it from here.
Can these performance techniques be applied to like Pig or Impala? Probably similar to this.
That's right. Pig also we applied some performance techniques, right? So everything will have its own set of tips and tricks. May not be. Even there we have seen map joins, queue joins, and replicated joins for joins, right? And Tej engine can be applied in Pig also, and I think limit can also be, and even this parallel execution number of reducers, the one that I'm setting here, exit.reducers.max, this property can be set in big also, because these are map reduced. But enable vectorization, cost-based optimizations, these things cannot be set. So anything that I'm setting through MapRed properties, you can apply there also.
Okay, perfect. That's exactly okay.
Yeah, because both of them uses MapReduce, you can tell that there also. Okay, so with this, I'm wrapping up the Hive sessions. Let's start with Impala tomorrow, freshly. Just see the architecture. Commands and everything are same. I will just explain you the architecture and how to connect to your Impala shell. And there are some limitations in Impala which are supported in Hive but not in Impala. Some functions and some features. Those things I will highlight. And if once you know the JDBC clients for Hive, the same client can be used for Impala also, but just by changing the port number. Those things I will highlight tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll be completing Impala also, and then after tomorrow we'll take up HBase. HBase will need at least 3 to 4 sessions. So could you please add my number to WhatsApp group? I'm not on the list. So also Siva, I WhatsApp you on one error message. Okay. Yeah, I will go through it, Nitu, and let me, once I go through it, I will respond to your this thing. I will add it, Satish. I think I'm forgetting it. Yeah, I will add it sometime today. Okay. So 5 minutes of time after the session. Give me half an hour break. After that, you can call me, Ramesh. Is it something that bugging you? Because you're asking, you asked yesterday also, but thing is, I have 3 days client visits. So every day I'm trying to rush up, and these 3 days are I'm running like anything. So yeah, no problem. You can give me a call in another half an hour. By the time I will complete my other stuff. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.